Thanks for listening to All Talk with Tom Jordan and Kevin Dietz on 760 WJR, where Michigan comes to talk.
You know, American workers are one of the theme of this year's RNC convention in Milwaukee. You know, protecting worker rights, you know, helping them actually afford to live, the rising cost of living, and making sure they earn, you know, competitive wages dictated by the free market. But there's, we saw this in Michigan, Kevin, where the right to work was eliminated just this past year after the midterms when the Democrats took control of the House and the state Senate. Well, there is something now called the PRO Act, which is an effort to do this nationwide, at least to eliminate the right to work laws currently in 26 different states. And there's a big pushback against that.
Yeah, behind the scenes at the convention, Tom, a lot of work is taking place as various organizations are making their pitches for future policy at the conference. At the conference this year is Mark Mix, president of the National Right to Work Foundation and National Right to Work Committee, and he joins us now. Good morning, Mark. How are you?
Good morning, Kevin. Good morning, Tom. Doing fine. I've actually left the proceedings in Wisconsin. I'm down in Texas now, so lots of different geography today, but still interested and involved in what's happening up there.
Mark Mix has left the building.
Yeah.
So first of all, give me a little bit of reaction to the convention and the speech of Teamsters President Sean O'Brien.
Yeah, Kevin, you know, that was not a surprise to me. I think Sean O'Brien, the Teamster president, elected like 2 years ago, he gets it when his rank and file members believe and support Donald Trump. He knows that, and so I think it was a pretty savvy move on his part to go to the RNC convention and give that speech. Although the speech was kind of full of socialist agenda stuff, it was interesting because I think he knows, unlike other union officials across the country, that the majority of his members, the Teamster members out there, are supportive of the agenda that Trump pushes, like, you know, close the border, reduce the size of government, lower taxes, protect the Second Amendment. Those types of issues have appealed to rank-and-file workers across the country. I think O'Brien knows that, unfortunately, not much like Sean Fain of the UAW.
Tom mentioned we've seen Michigan move to the left on this issue. What has the impact been in Michigan, and what would the impact be in these other states if this PRO Act were able to go forward?
Yeah, Kevin. Well, the first thing, as Tom mentioned, the PRO Act, if passed, would repeal all 26 right-to-work laws across the country. And federal law is the law that imposes forced unionism on the states and imposes it again on Michigan because of the repeal of the state right-to-work law. I think the PRO Act is something that I think Republicans are staying away from in the sense because it does radically change the balance between, not that there's much of a balance between union officials and workers, individual workers across the country, but it is a really big change in labor policy. And so I think when it comes down time to push that, there's opposition on both sides of the aisle for that. But we have to stay vigilant in that regard because just like in Michigan, when the partisan makeup of the House and the Senate changed in Michigan by one vote, the first thing they went after was right to work, making Michigan workers pay forced dues in order to get or keep a job again. And one of the manifestations of that, Tom and Kevin, is that we've had workers all across Michigan call us. In fact, just yesterday, we helped a group of employees in Michigan deauthorize the Teamsters union. So while Sean O'Brien was talking about gathering, and empowering workers, Teamsters in Michigan were trying to flee and get out of the union. There's no irony there, but there is some, and we've been helping Michigan workers across the state decertify, meaning get rid of unions, or deauthorize, meaning taking away the authorization for forced payment of dues in order to get or keep a job. So there's lots happening there, and I think when Michiganders woke up and those in union shops woke up and realized that money was being taken out of their paychecks again as a condition of employment, there's been a response, and that response is these workers saying, hey, what the heck is this? Let's go back to where we were when we could choose whether or not we wanted to support a union.
Yeah, I fled union membership because I realized what it was. It was a huge, intimidation factory where you had to do what the union told you to do, or there was mass intimidation and potential loss of your job, and certainly from protection. So it does the opposite, I think, and from my perspective and my own experience, of protecting the workers. It was surprising to me that Sean O'Brien was there. I think you're right. It was savvy that he was there because a lot of union members are conservative. It's ironic because unions typically lean towards a more liberal and more Marxist approach to society. Why do you think, though, he was there or invited to speak by the Republican National Committee? Is there something happening in the Republican Party that is becoming softer on this issue when it comes to, I know they want to attract the membership, But when it comes to the power of the unions, are they starting to get some sway over the Republican Party, in your view?
Well, certainly there are some Republicans trying to do that, like Senator Josh Hawley from Missouri. This guy, when he ran for office the first time, said he supported the idea that workers could choose whether or not they wanted to financially support a labor union. And then he turned completely 180 degrees, and he was mentioned specifically by Sean O'Brien from the podium at the RNC, saying that, and this is what he said, Tom, to your point. He said this, and it's the strangest thing because Josh Hawley appears to be a very smart guy and doing good things when it comes to nominations and questioning people during the committee process. But what he said, I would never impose right to work on anyone. And that shows a complete misunderstanding of what the federal law does. I mean, the imposition is forced unionism. You can get out by passing a right to work law and give yourself choice. But Tom, to your point, I think the problem with some Republicans, and it's a small number now, is that they want to appeal to rank and file members by trying to talk to the union officials. And as you know, that doesn't make any sense because it's the difference between the opinions of the union officials and rank and file workers is growing wider and wider all the time. In fact, it's interesting to look back on the unions, other unions other than the Teamsters. They endorsed Joe Biden back in April of 2023 before they even knew who the running mate was or who the nominees were going to be. That's how in the pocket organized labor is with the Democrat Party. We know that. And Tom, to your point, I think, unfortunately, some Republicans think they can talk to rank-and-file workers by appealing to the union officials.
Right.
That's the wrong attitude.
Yes, I agree. And I generally like Josh Hawley, but basically what he said was, I would never impose or force someone to have a choice, is what he said. So could you break this down? Because the Biden administration, I mean, they support these policies to essentially corral workers into unions without a vote. How does this, give us a foundational discussion here, how does this approach, in your view, undermine the real democratic principles in the workplace?
Yeah, it does. Basically, I mean, this project by the Biden administration, this whole of government project to use every agency to empower union officials to force more workers under union control is not a surprise. It's been going on for 3 years. But what was really the seminal point of this was a decision by the National Labor Relations Board, which is the 5-member board that adjudicates labor policy. In August of 2023, they ruled on a case called Cemex that basically took labor law back to the 1940s. And what that said was that if the employer did anything wrong during a vote on unionization, whether the workers voted against the union or not, the NLRB could impose a union on the workplace, even though the workers voted against it, even though no worker voted against it. We had a case helping employees. The vote was literally 17-0, Tom and Kevin, and the NLRB imposed a union on that workplace.
Wow.
This is the type of power and the exercise they're using to force people into these union collectives.
Yeah, my union friends, they always voted Democrat because they were told it protects their jobs. But then when medical costs kept going up and wages became stagnant, they started wondering what are they paying their dues for, and they started looking at other candidates like Donald Trump. We appreciate your time.
Yep, Tom, Kevin, thank you for the opportunity.
You got it. Mark Mix, president of the National Right to Work Foundation and National Right to Work Committee. Mark, thanks so much.